Good morning, lovely souls. Happy Friday. Tim Wild's Ascension update. And September is upon us. I do love this month. This month brings an air of kind of Virgoan tranquility to it, especially after, as I said the last time, it's possibly the most intensive Lionsgate that I and anybody else that I've kind of spoken to has ever experienced, and it really was an absolute cracker. And now we are kind of all bedding down and preparing for what the next phase is potentially going to bring us. And of course there's lots of different fields of thought out there. There's lots of kind of different stories. Most of the stuff that you'll tune into in social media at the moment is particularly doom laden. I saw the best description for like kind of standard Facebook the other day. Somebody called it a scroll hole, which I thought was brilliant, because it is. You start scrolling and you kind of get drawn into this hole that kind of encapsulates you. So it always occurs to me, if we're going to do this, if we're going to put our energy into something which draws us in, then essentially wouldn't it be more sensible to do so when focusing on something that raises our vibration? Now, at the moment, we need to stay informed, we need to stay prepared, we need to know what's going on around us. So it's not so much of a case of burying our heads in the sand, it's a case of being well in tune with what we need to do, what is going on around us in the planet, physically, mentally, emotionally and spiritually, and then focusing on a decisive action on how to achieve what we need to achieve. Now, many of us are almost a little bit, there's a feeling of trepidation about this winter, especially for those of you that are living in Australia, the UK, the United States. Everywhere on the planet has its own kind of little ball of turbulence. It's change that is rolling out at the moment, and at the moment it feels like a little bit of the pause in between. Northern Hemisphere, which is heading into autumn, it's a beautiful morning here, but it feels like September. It's got that very still feeling to it. And of course, once we start heading into the darker months, everybody's expecting things to kind of like really start getting intense, really start locking down. And this is the way that the energy has always been predicted to roll out. And in order for us to get the results that we need to stay very, very focused. We need to stay on ball, on side, informed and in tune with the instructions that are coming in. And most importantly, not give in to fear. Okay, this is one of the things that has been very it's coming in constantly. It's coming in constantly. The message that I'm receiving and the constant reminders are that we are in the middle of this process, but it is fully orchestrated. I think that is the one thing that is more important to remember than anything else, is that everything that we are experiencing is being experienced for a reason. So it's not a random set of events. If we're feeling the weight of what is coming, it's happening because it needs to occur in that way for the ascension process to have the alchemy of change within it. Now, all around us, people are waking up. It's a little bit like a slow cooking bag of popcorn. The light was turned up to a magnitude that none of us recognize it physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. what we have been receiving and what we are integrating at the moment is completely above the levels that we thought we were used to, and that's why it's pushed us so physically. There's so many reports of really intensive physical symptoms, me included. If you've been following me over August, you'd realise that I had to go through an upgrade process. Many other people are going through an upgrade process. My friend Paul Carey explained to me very carefully that when you receive that quantity of light, it's almost like the body has to totally remap itself. It has to, the intensity of the changes literally wipe your previous set of way of communicating with the outside world down to a level where it has to be rebuilt again. And so that's why quite a few of us, me included, were really taking the time to start to re-establish our communication with the outside world again, and how to feel it, how to sense it, how to interact with it, how we perceive it. Everything that comes in now to our senses, to our chakra system, is being read at a different level. It's being read at it's being read at a much higher level. So all of these things are occurring, and yet at the same time we're still waiting for what this particular winter is going to bring us. Now, I've heard so many different positive things about the assistance that we are receiving. One of the most interesting, and I've had this kind of verified by various different sources, because I've seen it floating around in my newsfeed, is the presence of walk-ins. Now, during the mid-August healing session, actually turned into a later August healing session with David Essery and I, one of the occurrences, or one of the sets of circumstances that the higher forces were bringing in for planet Earth, was the presence of walk-ins. Now, I perceived them as being sent through the portal to Earth by Vooslu as a team of very highly trained walk-in souls who are going to start taking positions of what appears on a 3D level to be power and authority, and changing it from the inside. Now, after the event, I've now had this confirmed. So as you are listening to this, this is occurring around the world. Walk-ins from a very high frequency, or very highly trained souls. I can't remember where they were specifically from. They were organised by Commander Ashtar and Vooslu. So these people, these souls that are going to be taking these positions, are very highly trained for the job. They come in at exactly the right time, and they're going to be occupying positions that look very 3D and changing them from the inside out. Now, there's an obvious question that cropped up, like, are these walk-ins happening almost unannounced? Like, say for the sake of example, you're the president of a small country and you're a dictator. Okay, now there's plenty of wannabe dictators out there at the moment, although they're kind of coming out of their shells. But say, use this scenario. Say you're the president of a small country. You've been enjoying your dictatorship for a couple of decades, and everything's running your way. That's the way it's been working. All of a sudden, the soul that has been running that show steps out and is replaced by somebody who is coming in from a 7th or a 9th dimensional frequency and is highly trained to create change. And all of a sudden, your personality, or your focus, and the things that you do gradually begins to change. Obviously, with these situations, you can't just change a person overnight, because it becomes visible. So the actions begin to change, the thought processes begin to change, the things that this person does begins to change, and it changes for the better, it changes for the good. And so this is the way that I was shown that this walk-in scenario would work. Now, this is either happening under contract, because the person occupying that body is agreeing to step out and allow the walk-in in, okay, walk-in in, or it's happening because of the intervention that Archangel Gabriel was talking about, the hammer of light, the fact that they're intervening because the laws of 3D engagement have been broken. So there's two potentials here. So that obviously brings up the possibility of violating someone's free will on a spiritual level. All of a sudden you're in a body, you're enjoying yourself, and you get hooked out, and it's replaced by somebody who is going to, from the higher realms, that says they're going to do a better job. And so this is a possibility, but as far as I know, everything is always done under soul agreement. So these people that you might see around you who are really not doing particularly, they're not acting from a heart-centered consciousness. They are doing the things that are pressing our buttons, our survival buttons. They're forwarding this kind of like these draconian measures and all of these situations that we are bracing ourselves against. And all of a sudden they get changed, or the frequency changes, the program changes. And I am told to watch out for this, because the changes will be subtle at first. It's not going to, like, all of a sudden overnight it ceases to exist. It's something that is going to roll out over the next 3 months, the next 6 months, the next 9 months. And time moves so quickly at the moment that I think with the way things that are going, it's almost like before we know it, we'll be at Lionsgate in 2022 thinking we've achieved a lot, we've come a long way. That might have been a little bit sticky and a little bit difficult to deal with in the middle of it. And so I was mulling all of this over last night. I do like to think about what I'm going to speak about before I do these videos, and sometimes it's always on the spur of the moment. You get a little hint of what the energy might be, what you want to talk about, what's on everybody's minds, what's pressing at the moment more than anything else. And obviously previously I've mentioned the children, and Monday was a decree to protect the children of this planet. That is very important at the moment. The action that we've taken, that all of you have taken, will have brought in the most incredible volume of protection, and it will also be the gateway that opens the doorways for the walk-ins, for the angelic protection, for the souls that are stepping in to work alongside us. You know, we're here physically, but all around us we've got this huge army of very high frequency, highly trained souls that are going to assist us with this transition. But anyway, I was driving over to my Thursday night kickboxing class, and it's quite a long drive, it's about half an hour away, and I was I was driving behind a vehicle that it belongs to a chap who lives just around the corner from me. He's a carpenter, and the surname is Goodwin, and I didn't think anything of it. I was just driving over there, did my session, which was an hour and a half long, and as I drove back again, I suddenly realised that I was behind the same guy. Now, what's the chances of that? You know, it's an hour and a half, nearly 2 hours later into the evening. There's hundreds of cars on the road, and all of a sudden I'm behind exactly the same van, driving along the same bit of road, back in the opposite direction, with somebody who lives round the corner from me with a very specific name. So I looked at the name, Goodwin. What does that translate to? What's the message here? I always get messages from cars, and it's God wins. Good wins. So this is what we are being told at the moment, regardless of what this looks like, regardless of what is coming out of the TV screen, the media, the people around you might be kind of melting down or freaking out a bit, or you might just kind of have that feeling of heaviness within your solar plexus. Good wins. Okay, every time you might see all of these scenarios rolling out around the planet and think, where is this going? Okay, where could this possibly go that results in a positive and a good ending scenario? but it does. Okay, none of us would be here if this wasn't the ascension process that we are expecting it to be. We haven't incarnated on this planet to become prisoners. We haven't incarnated on this planet to experience our master lifetime kind of locked in some kind of dystopian kind of scenario. We're here to step into our highest truth, our highest light, and live as sovereign beings, as ascended masters. Now, many of the souls that we communicate with, I'm in constant contact with the beings of the Intergalactic Council, mostly Serapis Bey, Yeshua, many others as well. Kuan Yin I talk to quite a lot as well, and they have all lived physical lives. They've all been here in physical. They've experienced Earth, probably in a lot darker scenarios than we've been in, because in the last 10,000 years or so, Earth has been at the absolute kind of bottom limits of 3D. We've risen way above this now. Now, the question I always like to ask myself is, did Serapis Bey feel like an ascended master when he was living his lifetime here on Earth as a human being? And the answer is most likely no. Every day he would have spent feeling human, feeling his limitations, feeling the pressure of the job, feeling all of that weight of responsibility upon his shoulders. And that's exactly like us at the moment. We might not feel like it, but we are the ascended masters of the future. You, me, everybody else around us that's stepping into the only way to describe it is we are embodying the I am my highest self. This is what I always like to say to myself. I am my highest self. I am my highest self. I am my highest self. Now, if you adopt that as a mantra, if you say that over and over again, you are activating the I am presence. So that automatically brings it in. And your highest self, there is no greater embodiment that you could bring in and be at the moment than your highest self. So if you bring that to the show, you will always be leading heart first. You will always be grounded. You will always be in the highest aspect of you that you can possibly present. And this is what we need to be doing. This is what we need to be bringing to the forefront. But the most important part about it is the majority of the time you might not feel like it. Okay, you might be waking up on a daily basis and thinking, what difference can I possibly make? And the truth of it is you can make a vast difference. One person can change the world. And there are millions of us out there now embodying this mighty I am presence. I'll never forget the words of Archangel Jophiel during one of the beautiful events that David Esri and I run during the summer, and we were dedicating it to the beloved archangels. I read the Thomas Prince book, The Beloved Archangels Speak, which was sent to me by my friend Bonnie in America, and some certain lines and certain aspects of this always stand out. And the one that I memorized, and the one that is just speaks so beautifully to me, was Archangel Jophiel telling a story of the good old days of 3D and how hard, how tough this planet actually was, and has the potential to be when it's in that vibration. And he said at this particular time there were only 4 souls, 4 people in human form who were actually embodying the power of their I am presence. And those 4 people were enough to actually stabilize and balance the vibration of the entire planet. Okay, 4 people out of everybody on the world. And those points of light, those anchored consciousnesses, were enough to hold the world in a point of stability where it didn't devolve to the point of no return. Okay, so look at it the perspective like that was then, this is now, and now there are millions of us, millions and millions of highly evolved souls that are now coming into this point of consciousness, this actualization, this embodiment of the I am presence. Good wins, okay, every time. And so if you look back through history, there's always there's always these kind of history's really coming up at the moment, because there's a lot of stuff that's been rewritten. His story isn't necessarily the true story. It's usually, there's that old saying that there's always two versions of events, and you'll always hear if say you've got a hunter and a lion, you'll only ever hear the hunter's version of the story. You won't ever hear the lion's story, and that's all changing at the moment, because the truth can no longer remain hidden. Everything that has been hidden in the shadows, everything that's been covered up, all of the things, and some of this stuff is quite uncomfortable as well, is being shown the light and coming to the surface now. So we're realizing a lot of the things that we were taught in school, a lot of the stories, a lot of the versions of events that have occurred were actually completely the opposite way around, or happened totally differently than the way that we've been led to believe. And that takes a lot of processing, that takes a lot of unlearning and relearning, but that's all part of our job. That's the fun of the game. So that's the message at the moment that I'm receiving, is that whilst we are waiting for this next phase, while we are working with the set of energies, most of it's integration at the moment. Most of it's integration and trusting, linking arms and hands with the higher forces that are around us in the spiritual realms, and just becoming very unified in our focus and our consciousness and what we want to achieve. Again, I'll refer to the incessant 3D party invitations that are coming from I'll say the previous reality, because it is the previous reality. Once you've stepped out of that, once you've disengaged by the outer major, you look at it like this very interesting TV program that you will never have anything to do with again. But it's the kind of the unique part about it is we're constantly pulled into it. We're constantly being asked to engage with it and invited back to join it. And it'd be like stepping through a TV screen into a completely bizarre show that you're not resonating with anymore. And that I know a lot of us are feeling like that at the moment. It's becoming so blatantly obvious what is going on that side of the coin. That it's and I feel the frustration of many people that are saying, well, how, for those of you that haven't woken up yet, why haven't you woken up yet? Why aren't you seeing this? How can you not see what is actually going on? But I think many of us are learning to step back from that now a little bit and just let the people that are still tuned into that reality learn from that reality. And in many cases that is almost, it's like an act of sacrifice a little bit, because in some ways that still affects us. It prevents us from getting where we want to as quickly as we want to get there. But on this particular pathway, the more souls that pass through the Ascension Gateway, the more successful this process has been. Okay, so we've got another 10 years at the moment of the changes. By the time we get to 2022, we've got exactly a decade to 2032 on the old previous timeline. And 2032 is the date in which this entire reality that we exist in will have formed into a solid, livable, fifth dimensional matrix, the beginning of the golden era of humanity at an ascended level. And it's an exciting prospect, but as we all know, 10 years passes very, very quickly. I mean, but it wasn't that long ago that I feel like I stepped through the gateway in 2012 into the cosmic moment. But that does feel like another lifetime. It's like the years that have passed in between, and the quantity of stuff that we've achieved in that space of time has been phenomenal. Look back over the years, even last year or maybe the year before, and see how far you've come. You might not have even been awake. You know, this time last year, you might have been completely engaged with the previous reality, and have no idea of what is really going on this world. And then all of a sudden, bang, the wake up occurs, and they're not slow, easy, a bit like yawning, rubbing your eyes and waking up from a nice nap kind of wake ups anymore. They are snap wake ups. They are from 0 to 60 in a very, very short space of time, and that creates almost like that state of shock that many people around you are in. And this has been described as kind of like, it's almost like those that wake up because of the circumstances on this world. Like the thing that rises up within them is holy rage, holy fire, that reaction of indignation to the injustices of the world. And so we're here to kind of calm those fires and to guide that storm. And it's going to be it's going to be a very, very interesting autumn or fall or whatever you want to call it, because we've got all of these new souls coming in to be placed in positions that previously we would have found very threatening, or might have found very threatening, because they are the ones that are pressing our survival buttons. So the message is, everything is in hand. Might not look like it, might not feel like it, but we're being asked again, right from the very start, trust. And my trust buttons have been very pressed. So I've had to completely trust everything that I've been told, shown, and kind of led into for the last 2 years. Because as many of you will experience, everything happens almost on a need-to-know basis. You don't get any warning for it. You don't get any preparation for it. It's simply all of a sudden you are in that situation, and you've got to think on your toes, and you've got to move into it. And that's one of the unique parts of the tests or the initiations that many of us are going through at the moment in the embodiment of the mighty I Am presence, is that you are not given that lovely bit of preparation time. You might be given hints about what's coming, but you'll never know fully in its entirety how it's going to present itself. So it's all down to trusting the universe. Okay, and I think on that note, good wins, God wins. I'm going to sign off and sending you all so much love. I'll be back on Monday morning with a walking meditation. Hope you all have a beautiful weekend. Lots of love to you all. Bye for now.